So, before we really start this podcast, I just want to say that I am very aware of the allegations that have been made against a prominent comic book writer, Neil Gaiman. Now, I personally love a lot of Neil Gaiman's work, such as Sandman, Batman, Whatever Happened to the Cape Crusader, or What Happened to the Cape Crusader, I think is the actual, doesn't matter. Um, he's written a lot of stuff that's been very impactful for a lot of people and me. I'm a big fan of the book Stardust. I remember reading it back when I was a teenager and I loved it. But Neil Gaiman has, there have been allegations made towards Neil Gaiman. Now, I'm not going to get into the fine details of it, um, but it seems like they could be very true in regards to the fact that he has even stated himself that he knew of the people, and it's not a great look at all. Like his whole defense was, yeah, it happened, but it was consensual, which is like the worst defense you could have pulled because you found even if he thought it was consensual, like obviously the victims did not. And again, I'm not going to go any further into this. This all kind of happened because of a podcast group that seems to be pretty sketchy in their business model. But then again, I'm not saying that devalues the validity of these victim statements. I'm just saying, um, like, I just want to throw that out there because I know that's a big thing within the comic book community right now. I don't feel comfortable talking about it this much because I feel like I don't really feel comfortable talking about it on air because this is kind of where I try to do some of my light-hearted content instead of just, the serious stuff, which I do on my main channel. But I just wanted to throw that in there. But yeah. But getting into the actual podcast itself, I will be talking about the Deadpool 3 criticisms that have been coming that I feel like are very stupid, but we'll get to that. As well as the Superman set picks. There's also the Jim Lee situation that happened recently that I might get into. Like, not a lot of detail. I might just, start with it because it's a very short story. And I will also be giving my kind of predictions. Well, or at least what I feel like would be a great Justice League and a Teen Titans team in the DCU. Now, that whole idea comes from Troy Boy on YouTube, who had a great video where he, lined up his Justice League lineup, and I kind of want to do my own in a more shorter fashion because this is just going to be a part of the podcast, but whatever. Getting into the actual video itself, we might as well start off with the Jim Lee situation because that's kind of the shortest story. And basically, what it is that Jim Lee is charging a lot for his commissions, and I believe the actual amount is like $20,000, which, when you hear that out front, sounds insane. Oh my god, it's $20,000 for a sketch, or just for a commission. But I think what a lot of people have failed to realize, or at least the people who are outraged by this, fail to realize, is that Jim Lee is not a active artist in the sense that he is on a monthly book or he is, doing multiple books at once. He is a DC executive through and through. He's like the president. I'm pretty sure he is the president of DC right now, or at least a very high up member, in the very least. So he doesn't exactly have time to be doing a lot of commissions right now, and that's very understandable. The guy is also one of the most well-known comic book artists of all time. If he wants to charge extra for his book, for his commissions, I feel like that is very much no, it's very fair. And also, he is basically setting the guidelines for what he feels like his art is worth. And again, he's one of the most well-known artists out there. So he isn't exactly going to be paying, he's not exactly going to be doing commissions for cheap. The guy does not have a lot of time on his hand. He's an incredibly busy guy. So yeah, I feel like if someone is not going to come up to him and be like, hey, I want you to do this piece of art for me, it's not exactly going to be cheap. And I've been trying to find this. There was a story that Gail Simone shared in relation to Jim Lee, in which Jim Lee kind of went out of his way to work on a commission that was going to be sold to pay for a legendary comic book writer, John Ostrander's eye surgery. So I'll just read out this little story. I have a Jim Lee story. Legendary comics writer John Ostrander needed eye surgery. A couple others and myself went all around San Diego Comic-Con to ask artists for an art donation to raise the funds to literally save not just his eyesight, but his eyes. It was for John Ostrander, and so I asked legendary artists that normally I would be intimidated just to talk to. We got pieces from Neil Adams, Matt Groening, and lots more. Again, because it was for John, I worked myself up to ask the giants. Everyone was lovely, but it was still intimidating. Asking legends who I know get asked for stuff all the time. Jim was the biggest artist in comics, not to mention he was also my boss. When I asked him, I expected a no. He was scheduled tightly. It was San Diego Comic-Con. He had no free time at all. But when I told him of the auction, the only free time he had was during a panel, a packed spotlight panel. So being the man he was, he decided he would draw a huge sketch during the panel and put it up on the overhead screen while drawing so he could do the panel and donate something amazing. He could have drawn anything. He chose to draw Batman, a very beautiful Jim Lee Batman, because he knew that would bring in the most dollars. We were all stunned, we couldn't believe it. I was thinking of adding Wolverine, he said. That would have been awesome. Now keep in mind this was the last panel in the last hour of the con. I was exhausted, every pro was. I can only imagine what it was like for Jim. 10 times worse, I am sure. Everyone who would have understood if the drawing was loose or simplistic. Instead, during the panel, paying full attention to his fans, answering their questions, he went full Jim Lee. It looked like a cover, Batman and Wolverine, drawn while doing the last panel of the con. Stunning. But that's not all. As he drew the two biggest character in American comics, I just couldn't believe the gesture, and he did it without hesitation. Watching Jim Lee draw a masterwork live was something I will never forget. Then the panel was over. I go up to take a trembling possession. It's stunning, as I said. I was terrified to take it, trying to imagine getting through the exiting San Diego Comic-Con crowds to take it, and many other pieces from legendary artists to our hotel. I'm thanking Jim, telling him how much this means. He says, hang on a second. He turns around. He didn't feel he had finished the piece. So the con is over. He should be crashing at his hotel. He wants to take the time to add extra sparkle to Toy's incredible piece. We find a round table as the congoers are being rushed out the hall. Jim sat there while security kept telling us to leave to finish an already astonishing piece for a great creator so he could keep his eyesight. They had to finally come and just throw us out. I've had a lot of bosses, I've had a lot of great bosses, but this story is who Jim Lee is to me. John got a surgery, two legends being amazing. Years later when we were raising money for black causes in the wake of Black Lives Matter protests with the Comics Writers Challenge, Jim came through again without hesitation. Not only did he donate this historic page from his personal collection from his record-breaking X-Men run, but he agreed to match the winning bid with his own money. That's the Jim Lee I know and saw many times. Even if he couldn't draw a lick, I would still be a fan. Thank you, Jim. You remain the best. P.S. this is so fucking cool. This is amazing. But yeah, this was a great story to share in the wake of all this, because this is a dude who went above and beyond for something that all he really had to do was draw just a simple piece, and he went above and beyond to draw this piece while doing a panel at the same time. That's insane. So I feel like when people complain about how much he is paying people, charging people for his commissions, it's a little silly if you're trying to argue against that when this is the guy who does this and draws amazing art. This is a piece I would 1,000% pay $20,000 for if I had the money. Like, this is just incredible. But yeah, it's just, I don't get all the hatred towards it. And I will say, for the most part, this is something that I feel like a lot of people have come out more in support of than people actually hating on it. Like, I think it's just an overreaction from a minority group, or like a minority of the comic book community, that just don't really appreciate art all that much and don't understand, like, this is some guy, like, this is a guy who just can't take a bunch of time out of his day to do commissions, like a bunch of them. Because he made them, affordable for anyone, like, if he made them, like, a couple $100 or just like a couple, thousands of dollars, I feel that just a couple thousands of dollars, there would still be a lot of people who'd be willing to pay that amount of money to get that commission. And that's not even talking about the scalpers, who would probably do the same thing. But yeah, for a guy who doesn't have a lot of time on his hands, who does incredibly detailed pieces, is the executive of a company, I feel like him setting a high price because he knows that only people who are extremely willing to put in the money for it, he's gonna have more time just to do one, two, or three than probably hundreds if you put it at a very low price. We also have, we might as well get to the Deadpool 3 criticism. I said it with the last part, but this part might be a little bit shorter. So there has been some discussion, and it all came from the recent clip of Deadpool 3 where, they tease a fight between Wolverine and Sabretooth. And just this look right here. And people have been complaining about it. You see this tweet right here. Actually, what did they spend the $300 million on? And just taking this one screenshot, like, I saw some people say like that this shot looks like it was like very fake green screen, despite the fact that we know it was like on set. I don't know. I feel like there's been a lot of hate for this movie recently. Like, I heard people who are arguing about like the color grading. It's just really, really weird behavior, I feel like. Oh yeah, and this was their reply to people being like, just shut up. Why? Just stop talking about it. The people who are disagreeing with me are unfortunately incel. Sorry, I don't make the rules. Like, it's stupid complaining for no fucking reason. Like, I understand wanting, like, more colorful movies, shit like that. Like, honestly, yeah, there is definitely a problem when it comes to, especially MCU movies just not being that colorful when it comes to their design choices. Like, we've seen like the BTS shots of these suits, and they do look more colorful there, and I do prefer that. But I also don't hate this. Yeah, I just wish it would change. But it's not a huge criticism where I'm like, this movie's so bad because they, you know, dulled the colors a little bit. I don't know. Like, I just don't get it. I feel like the worst thing that like has very much worsened the comic book community, or at least the comic book movie community, is arguing about little silly shit like this. And we'll see that with this right here, the Hulk Girl Guy Gardner suit reveal. A lot of people have been freaking out about this, and I feel like the people who freak out about this, like, I get the initial like reaction to it. Like, if when I first saw these, I was like, huh, like, that's what you're going for. But then I was just like, oh, I see what they're doing with this. So as you can kind of see right here, if you look like right here at Hulk Girl, and at the chest of Guy Gardner, they all kind of share a similar logo, a logo that was also on the Mr. Terrific suit, and that is the Lord Tech symbol. So basically, what it appears to be is that this team of Guy Gardner, Mr. Terrific, Hulk Girl, and Metamorpho, who we did see a set pick of, but it's not practical effects, it's just they're just done to do CGI, which I feel like is fine. I don't have anything against that. I don't have anything against that. And if you look at these pics and you put them up against the Mr. Terrific suit that we saw from the set pics, it very much looks like just, a different color variation of his suit. So obviously, I think what they're trying to go for with this, the lore tech symbol, is that these are like the corporate superheroes. Now we also know that there's supposed to be a member of the Authority in Superman, in the Superman movie. So I think what they're gonna do, if they put the rest of the Authority in it, is that they're probably gonna be like, okay, here's the government super team, here's the corporate super team, and here's Superman, who is all on his own. Like he's just doing this by himself. So I think what they're gonna try to go for is like they're doing this to bring Superman up, which I feel like is, a good thing when he's the main character. Obviously, people who are fans of these characters aren't a big fan of what's going on. I understand, but this is probably going to be something that just changes, like by the end of the movie. Like because of Superman, these people are just kind of like, yeah, I don't want to be like a part of a corporate team anymore. I'm gonna go do my own thing. Like we'll probably see a comic accurate Hulk girl maybe by the end of the movie, maybe in a separate project. Same with Guy Gardner. We still have that Lantern show. But like I get what they're trying to go for this. And I understand people not exactly liking it all that much, but at the same time I feel like you gotta understand that sometimes for art you gotta sacrifice things that you like. Like I would like to see a comic accurate Guy Gardner suit. I would love to see a comic accurate Hulk Girl suit in live action. But I understand what they're trying to go with and the direction, and I don't think it would work if they just all had their comic accurate costumes. Like they're really trying to hammer it home like no, these are corporate superheroes that have no identity outside of what the corporation has given them in terms of their look. So with this, I'm all for it. I think it's great. Still, I don't think this is gonna be the end all be all for it. Like, obviously, what's more than likely gonna happen is like with Superman's arrival or it's just Superman's influence on them, they're gonna be like, you know what? I think this is not the way we should go. We should just, do our own thing. Have our own personality, and they throw away. It's like the Peacemaker meme, where it's just like, oh, corporate superheroing, what a joke, and they throw their costumes away and get a new one. Like I think like it definitely works. We'll have to see it in execution, but I think this works. But yeah, it just feels like very reactionary when it comes to like hate with this and Deadpool 3. Like it just wait, just wait for the love of God. Don't predict you can predict what the movie's going to be about, but don't think that your predictions are going to be the end all be all of what's going to happen. Like I could be wrong, you could be wrong, everyone could be wrong. We don't know. If you want to see the movie, just see the movie when it comes out. It's there's no harm in speculating unless you are acting like you already know what this movie is about. Like just hands down. Also, just something else, there is a rumor that Lobo is going to be in Supergirl, and Jason Momoa might star as him, which I would love. Love, love, love. Does make me wonder what they would probably do with Aquaman in the DCU, but my guess is that they're just probably going to replace him for someone else, or Aquaman will probably not be in it. But yeah. So going forward from this, I do have a list pulled up of my predictions of what the Justice League and the Teen Titans are going to look like in the DCU. Because while we don't have a official Justice League project announced, there are rumors that this team is going to be like the JLI, or maybe just a different version of the Terrifics, but we don't know. But if they do a Justice League movie, here's who I feel like should be in the lineup. Now, with my Teen Titans team lineup, I went with only 5 members, but with this one, I was originally going to go with 7, but then I was like, nah, I'm going to add in a few members, just like a few extra, because why not? I feel like, James Gunn is really good at juggling multiple characters and giving everyone their moments from like the Guardians of the Galaxy movie and, the movies, and the Suicide Squad movie, that I feel like he would definitely do very good with a Justice League movie, even if there's a bunch of characters in it. So starting off, I'm going with the Trinity. Those are my first 3 picks. A Justice League movie should have the Trinity in it. I know some people want more of a JLI lineup where it's more just like the B-listers or C-listers. Maybe Batman's in there, but I don't feel like many people would imagine that lineup with Batman in it. But at the same time, I feel like you need to have them in there. You need to. Booster Gold, Blue Beetle, and fucking Fire and Ice are not going to sell a movie on their own. They're just not. Maybe after the Booster Gold TV show, but I highly doubt they'll be able to do it on their own. Batman would probably help them out with that, but I feel like you need to get a good Trinity. Also, like, especially, a good Trinity. Because the DCEU Trinity just wasn't all that great. Because here's the thing, I think Henry Cavill did a pretty good job as Superman with what he was given, even though I'm not a huge fan of the overall portrayal. And Ben Affleck's Batman, I do think that he could have been a way better Batman. Again, I just don't think he got a lot of great material. I think he still had a good amount of good material, but to me, that's just not Batman. Ben Affleck's Batman, to me, it was just not Batman. And then you had Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman, and it just wasn't great. I just didn't care I didn't care for her at all as a character. And here's the thing, I'm not the biggest Wonder Woman fan, but I was just like, I want to care about Wonder Woman, like I do, and I want DC to care more about Wonder Woman too. But I feel like they need to do something better with her. Like DC, and just DC in general, not even just the movies, but like DC in general, there's not a lot of Wonder Woman prints, like trade paperbacks or hardcovers out there, collected editions. And I feel like they really just need to do a better job with her, and I feel like the first thing they need to do, in terms of getting her more acquainted with the general audience, is to give her a better actress, and just give her a more prominent role. We are getting the Amazon show, but it's a little iffy if she'll even be a part of that. Honestly, it seems to be more like, like a look to the past in a bit. I don't know. We'll see. We don't have a bunch of information about it, but we'll see. But yeah, moving on from the Trinity, we're gonna go with a Green Lantern, and now we already know that we have Guy, Hal, and John in the DCU. Now, Lanterns will have John and Hal, maybe Guy as like a cameo, but I think if they're gonna make a Justice League movie, they need to use one of them. I don't think they should have both of them, and since Lanterns is already a buddy cop project from the sound of it with Hal and John, I'm gonna have to go with Guy. Because, with Hal and John having their own project, I don't think they really need to be a part of the Justice League. I think Guy should be a part of the Justice League. And there's your, JLI, just hard to pronounce. The JLI lineup representation there. Have Guy. And you could also, remake the One Punch, the One Punch segment. That would be fun. Then moving forward, every Justice League needs to have a Flash. I feel like every Justice League definitely needs a Flash on there. But with the Flash, the movie, leaving a lot of a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths, even for the people who didn't even see it, I think you need to go with another Flash, and I think you gotta go with Wally. And now, me personally, I love Wally. I think he's way better than Barry. I do not care for Barry at all. I feel like the only times they made Barry interesting is when they literally just gave him Wally's personality. But I feel like they need to go with Wally. Even just out of my own bias, I think, again, the Ezra Miller situation, the Flash movie in general, just stunk like a dead raccoon. You need to go with someone else. And I feel like Wally would just be such a fresh air for people. Also, he is having a resurgence in the comics. The Flash ongoing series right now is more focused on him than Barry, in terms of the main plot of the comic. And also, just who doesn't like Wally? Everyone should like Wally. He's the best Flash. But yeah, I feel like Wally should definitely be the Flash for the Justice League in the DCU. Moving forward, we have another DCAU addition to it, and that's Hawkgirl. Now, obviously, this is a a different Hawkgirl than the one from the DCAU. But again, I would like to see Hawkgirl, particularly this one, especially if she does really good in her role in another project. And I think, Justice League would be a great fit for her. It would be nice to see Superman have an impact on characters like Guy and Hawkgirl to the fact that he brings them into the Justice League. Also, I would have to go with a classic Justice League member, Martian Manhunter. I love Martian Manhunter. I'd love to see him get more representation outside of that weird cameo he got in the Snyder Cut. We also have Starfire. Now, Starfire is just someone who I feel like should be added to the Justice League in the comics, especially with how the Teen Titans are all grown up now, or at least the new Teen Titans are all grown up. I feel like you need to add at least some of them. Now, they did add Cyborg with the New 52, but it felt really forced and it felt super unnatural. So I feel like you gotta go with something a little different, and I think Starfire would be a good pick. Who else? Oh, Booster Gold, another JLI edition. Even though he was a late edition, he wasn't an inherent member. But depending on how well the Booster Gold show does, I would think that he would make a great addition to it. But again, we'll just kind of see where that goes. I feel like he is kind of a slot that you could change with anyone. Maybe Metamorpho, maybe Green Arrow, Black Canary. There's a bunch of other people who I feel like could, fill that slot. But if the Booster Gold TV show does very well, it would be nice to see him in the Justice League, even though, I don't know. I might take him off just because I feel like him and Guy would be almost too similar in terms of how it depends on where they go with the Booster Gold character in the TV show. But if it's the obnoxious, thinks he's better than everyone Booster Gold, I think it would be too much of an overlay with Guy Gardner. So I would maybe switch it up with Black Canary. Or it depends, because we do have, I don't know. You could also go with maybe Cyborg. I don't know. Someone else. I feel like definitely add someone of color to it, because I just realized I think all my characters except for Hawkgirl is white. So yeah, maybe Black Lightning would be great. Black Lightning would be a great addition. I love Black Lightning. I feel like he doesn't get as used as much either. He had a great issue of the other history of the DC universe by John Ridley, I believe his name is. But yeah, it was a great issue. There was a great moment with him and John Stewart in that issue. I feel like, if you replace Guy with John, you could almost kind of recreate that, but we'll see. Moving on to my Teen Titans lineup, and I'm going to try to make this a quick one because I'm almost running out of time. Because I try to keep these a half an hour, but we'll see. This is going a little bit longer than I thought. So I'm just going to kind of fire through them. The first pick is Robin Damian Wayne. We already know he's going to be in The Brave and the Bold. So, he's already, a young age. I'll just put him in the Teen Titans, make him 13 or whatever, 14. Just put him as a leader. You could do the Rebirth run in a way, but with a more younger cast. And I do have 2 members from that team on this team, which is Beast Boy and Raven. Now, I would like a more kind of new Teen Titans route in terms of them being a little bit older, but I feel like in order for this to work, you would have to make them, at least somewhat younger, probably 16. But yeah. I also have Blue Beetle. Just keep the guy who played him in the movie. I'm blanking on his name. Just keep him. Bring him over to the DCU. The movie was fun. He did a great job. Just, keep him in the DCU. And my last pick is Crush. So I already talked about how Lobo is probably going to be in Supergirl. Just put his daughter in Teen Titans. I like Crush. I think she's a fun character. But I feel like just putting her in there would be fun too. I was also kind of blanking on the 5th member, honestly. I was kind of should I put Cyborg in there? No, I feel like he should be a bit more grown up now. Should I put Tracy 13? And then I was well, there's already 2 magic characters. You could put Emiko in there, Red Arrow. That would be fun. You could put maybe Terra. Get a redemption story for Terra. Ravenger, Deathstroke's daughter. anyone. I put Crush in there because it was like the first one who came into mind. I would also, I just also like Lobo. I like Crush. I'd like to see more Zarnians, I guess. But yeah, that's all I really had to say. Just gonna leave it off there. Tell me what your Justice League picks, your Teen Titans picks are down below, and I'll see y'all in the next one.